3-4 weeks back at CQS, as we all know, it was what the most hottest drug this world wanted, right? Everyone wanted. I mean, governments globally were putting pressures on Indian government to probably send HCQS. So yeah, there was some pressures, but I think adequate controls have been built in, is what I would personally say. So I don't know if I have answered your question, Dr. Roman.
Yeah, thank you, Rajiv, because I'm going to take this in continuity to Preeti, because this pressure is also giving rise to another game in the market, which is about patents. Now, just 3 months ago, India did not manufacture any personal protective equipment, and we used to import everything. And today we become the second largest manufacturer in the world because there are a lot of players who were manufacturing, God knows what all. I mean, fabric, textile, shoes, leathers, everything. And now they seem to be manufacturing PPE. So there are a lot of such pressures in the market, which is giving rise to the challenges and about patents. And I want to ask Preeti to how she sees this problem panning out
Thank
in
you.
this crisis situation.
Thank you, Dr. Uma, for this question, and thank you, PharmaSafe, for organizing this webinar. I think this webinar is at the very apt time to discuss about intellectual property rights, patents. I would say, in terms of patents, it can be termed as lifestyle innovation, because the best of the companies, what they are doing is they are pivoting their business model, and by pivoting the business model, they are looking at a different arena. Before even getting into it, the very important fact right now for any company in India, whether the player is a small player or it's the big player, I think each one of us have to work together in the holistic approach. So if you just see the trend of even trademark filing in last 3 months, or I would say last 4 months now, globally 400 trademarks have been filed. And the most important thing right now for any company is to look at the proactive strategies which they can take into consideration so that they are ahead in the curve. Though we say we have to work in the holistic approach, and the clothing companies are coming up with headgear, they are coming with jackets which has a mask attached to it. The mask can be changed. So in that case, the trademark classification is very, very important. That means what kind of trademarks you're filing, what classes are you filing, is very important. Even though if you're not intending to launch in that market, you should definitely protect the brand in the particular class and good. So the trademark classification or branding is all about goods and classes. If you understand, or I would say, if there are companies who are venturing out to build a portfolio, because now is the time to build portfolio in the online world. Though IPR is an intangible asset, it is a very much tangible asset when you see the I would say the results. So in that view, one should take into consideration the class 10, class 25 is very, very important. Then class 44, class 45 is very important if you see the global market, because right now India wants to be at the platform where we are the exporters rather than the importers. So in that case, one has to understand what kind of treaties India has signed, and the parties can encash on this and file a single trademark application in multiple countries also. So that can be filed under Madrid Protocol. So it's a very good time to see what kind of portfolio you have. A due diligence has to be done. And the positive feedback loop would be to work in collaboration with people who are already there in the market. Now, a very simple example would be here, like when we talk about technologies or when we talk about patenting per se in this case, IoT is going to play a very important role with COVID as a byproduct, or I would say one of the essential elements. Now, when I talk about IoT, the very simple fact is, say for example, somebody is selling a mask by the labeling of N95. So the barcode should be there, and the barcode should be prominent enough so that the consumer is able to scan through the mobile phone and see whether the product itself is a genuine product or not. So it's not only what kind of product you are selling, how collaborative you are and how proactively you are able to encash utilizing the other technologies is very, very important. The other very important factor is right now, as business owners or as pharma companies, one can be gatekeeper or one can be the oracle. Gatekeeper means somebody who enters your periphery, then only you are proactive to take these steps. Oracle is seeing what's incoming. Say for example, one needs to book the domain names. What are the required domain names? So there's a very good example right now in the market whereby the branded companies, so there is something called as branded companies and the substandard products which are there in the market. So branded companies, they are filing two trademark applications. Say for example, something is some brand name is like COVID Coverage, so that is one kind of brand name. Another brand name is COVID News. So with the COVID News, the company is using a prefix of their company name because they already have a brand and a trust in the market. So that's a good way to encash on this point and create an IP portfolio which will be useful in the current times and in if seeing the future in terms of merger and acquisition. What kind of user base you have, how are you calculating your Google Analytics? So there are a lot of parameters you can work around. A lot of big data is being generated right now. So how one can review everything so that you are ahead in the game. Another very, very important thing which I would like to talk about is reviewing your existing contracts. I will echo with the other speakers. They have already talked about the definition section. So yes, WHO did talk about the definition section. However, the contract which is signed between parties, the most important section right now is your definition section, and the second section which is very important is dispute resolution clause. So what are your dispute resolution clauses which will be very much in demand, or I would say if there is some kind of dispute, how you're going to resolve those disputes. So right now, in very simple words, there are three kind of mechanisms through which a dispute can be resolved. First is the negotiation, second is the mediation, and third is the arbitration. So it's a good time to review our contracts, see the definition section, set the ambit right. A definition section can be also written in a manner where the party itself can be the lexicographer. So when I say being your own lexicographer means, say for example, there's a mask. Now the mask can be a surgical mask. The mask can be for just for fun. So you can actually talk about or write what kind of mask you are going to manufacture under the contract so that the ambit is right, and then you are able to catch hold of the offenders when the time is apt. Yeah, that's how I'll. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Uma.
Thank you, Preeti. So I'm going to ask you, I'm going to go to the second round of questions for all of you. And I want to start with you now and say that in this time when everybody is trying to fast track everything, how do you see the problem of people trying to slip through the cracks in the regulations, slipping through the cracks in all this trademark, and also the opportunists trying to, reserve all the domain names and all everything that you mentioned about, and trying to make a fast buck, and having an entire industry, another parallel industry develop in for corrupt practices, which may not be directly relevant to the question that we are addressing today, but indirectly it adds to the cost, it adds to a lot of other issues of having to resolve later. So how do you see that?
In the current era, the very important fact is to work in association with the custom people. So IPR rights which are registered, which it can be registered with the custom also. So every country has this custom regulation website whereby you can register your documentation. So what is very important is to take the proactive strategies, or the proactive strategy, the best strategy is to build something rather than going after it. So seeing the opportunity here is definitely the pharma company can work with the lifestyle company wherever the subset is combining, and both can coexist. I think the right word here would be how two brands can coexist. And right, and another important factor is, if we talk about the opportunistic company, the lifestyle companies which are coming out with the headgears, and they are coming with the products which they are even filing a design registration. Then another very important thing which is being seen in India is geographical indications. So IPR is not only now patent trademarks. You have to see the design registration, which is the ornamental and the aesthetic part, and then you have the GI tags. As I said, the online model of how the barcodes would be encoded and how the sensitization program can be implemented through these webinars. I think the supply chain people have to be sensitized so they know what is right and what is no. So, what is the right way to go ahead from this point of time is proactively file the trademark applications. A team has to be developed whereby they are watching out in the online media through the there are tools whereby you can just mention if this keyword is being used, so you will get a reminder email. So monitoring is very very important right now. Now how the companies who are in the domain where they are not the players but trying to make the most of it. Now, this is a good question whereby people on offline, in the offline model, how these people, or I would say the whistleblowers, or how the detectives can, take this into consideration and look at the supply chain management. So the critical control points have to be checked. The easiest way to is to identify the critical control points. Once you identify the critical control points, at least monitor that. I think in that way, at least 80% of these crimes won't happen.
Thank you so much. You made this sound very interesting and exciting, and it is a challenge now which I'm going to throw to Rajiv and say that this whole model of disruptive partnerships that is going to emerge, and trying, different companies manufacturing till now totally dissimilar products might have to either work together or merge their practices